Good morning, friends. How are you? What a cozy morning. I feel like I start every single video off saying that exact same thing, but I do love making the most of a cozy, comfy, rainy, misty morning in Portland, Oregon. My tea is still steaming. Can you guys see it? Looks so good. Ready? You see it? Fall is in full swing finally here in Portland. I feel like we're so far behind, but oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. I've been running around with my camera attached to my hand trying to capture it all, and hopefully I've done it justice in this video. Okay, I feel like a kid at the science fair, but look at this leaf. It's huge. It could literally be a shirt on me. A scandalous shirt, but a shirt nonetheless. It's giant, and this came from the trees that are just outside our bedroom window. They've been falling like crazy and their leaves are just beautiful. Look at that. No idea what to do with it. I think I might just frame this single leaf and put it on the wall somewhere. I just held it up to the wall right here, but you guys can't see that because, yes. I feel a bit slow and super scatterbrained. I don't know about you guys, but it's become increasingly difficult to maintain focus. When it was the beginning of COVID, I found that I worked way too much. It was really hard to hit the off button. I would just sit and work because there was no going to work and then leaving work. It was just all at home. And now that we're, I don't know, 9 months in and heading into our second full-on self-isolation, I seem to have lost so much discipline. I've still been getting my work done, but I've been doing this terrible self-sabotage thing where throughout the day, I'm distracted by my phone. I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Pinterest, and I just sit there and I have this constant banter of self-guilt going on in my head. But I do it anyways. I just sit there on Instagram, Pinterest, or YouTube, and I don't work. But I have these deadlines that I need to meet for my freelance work, and I've also agreed upon a certain number of hours to spend on each project. So then I end up staying up way too late to get it all done. And rather than just determining to enjoy myself during the day, I make myself feel guilty and lazy on these apps. And then I stay up too late, and then I'm tired the next day, and it just snowballs upon itself, and it's not a great feeling. So I decided that I needed to make some changes, and I've just gotten a new phone. My old one was 5 or 6 years old. It was definitely overdue for an update. And with this update, I've gained access to screen time monitoring, which was extremely eye-opening. I am embarrassed to say how many hours a day I spend on my phone. But because my phone's been my biggest distraction, specifically social media, I've decided to set a downtime window. So I set my window from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. and during this window, I don't have access to Instagram, Pinterest, or YouTube because those are my most distracting apps. And then I've also gone in and put a 1 hour limit on each of these apps, which was terrifying and quite startling, actually. I can't believe that I was scared to put a 1 hour limit on each app. That means 3 hours out of the day, you know, which should be plenty, but then I've grown quite attached. So yes, I've put these restrictions on my phone, and this will be the first week that I have them in place. So hopefully my productivity goes up, and hopefully I just feel better and put a stop to this seemingly endless cycle of self-guilt, consequent laziness, lack of sleep, and total distraction. With that, I have quite a bit to do today, the first being a bit of Patreon work. I need to film a new video lesson for my Earl Grey tier. I've gone through my filming and editing process, and now today's video will specialize on color correction, and I'm really excited to make it, so I'm gonna check that off the to-do list first. I also have a goal of editing 15 pictures for this company that I'm working with. I'm currently creating their inventory for their website, so I've taken pictures of all the products and now I'm just uploading them. I have about 120 to go through and edit, so I'm gonna go and do hopefully 15 of those today. And then also just work on editing this week's YouTube video. For fun, I'm reading Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. It's the book that I was reading in my autumnal read with me. I'm reading it with my very good friend Brooke Morrison, and I'm terribly behind. She finished it I think on Friday, and I'd say that I'm about 3/4 of the way through, but I'd love to finish it today or tomorrow and then talk with her about it. So friends, without further ado, let's get to it. Let's have a great, productive day. Hi friends, the sun is out, so Rue and I are gonna go sneak a nice long walk to soak it up while we can, because the sun is a rare thing in the fall and winters of Portland, Oregon. How does that sound? Hey ho friends, happy Wednesday. I have no idea how we're already halfway through the week, but it's been a good week, I want to say. I don't know, I've had a tough week. It's again tied back to my productivity issues, or just feeling like I'm constantly falling behind and not accomplishing what I set out to. So setting the restrictions on my phone has definitely helped, and it feels really good to not just be on it constantly checking Instagram and YouTube. But I still haven't quite managed to fulfill everything that I set my mind to as far as goals and to-dos go. I just feel like I'm trudging through mud when I am being productive. And Monday and Tuesday, I've literally worked all day, both days, until I go to bed with only like an hour's time of not working. It's so much, but I also have a giant freelance project that I'm working on, and this will be the last one of this type, and I should finish it at the beginning of next week. So once that's done, I think that it will be a lot easier for me to balance work and rest and still feel productive. Something that I've added on top of the phone restrictions is a Headspace meditation. So I tried a free trial for Headspace like, I don't know, a number of months ago, and then Classic, I forgot about it and it charged me for an annual subscription. So I now have Headspace for the year, and I have really wanted to try meditation. It's something that I've done in the past and it's always helped me a ton, but it's also one of those things where, ooh, it is so hard to stick with. So I was browsing the app and I found this productivity meditation course. I think it's like 10 sessions. I will pop it up on the screen right here if I haven't already. And so I started that on Sunday, and I'm 4 days in, I think, and it has definitely helped. It just relaxes my mind and takes a lot of the pressure of trying to accomplish everything off, or at least the self-blame that happens when I don't accomplish everything. I feel like I should also mention that this is not sponsored. I would love to be sponsored by Headspace or some form of meditation app, but since Monday I have filmed, edited, and uploaded a video lesson for my Earl Grey Patreon tier. I've also done 2 community posts on Patreon, and I'm currently working on a Q&A that my patrons requested. And then I've also made a ton of progress on my freelance project. I think I only have about 40 more pictures to go, and it's Wednesday, so that is a really good place to be. I just really want to get it finished, or I had hoped to get it finished by today so that I could work on this video and other YouTube things for the rest of the week. And one last thing before I get back to work is a reading update. So I have officially finished Northanger Abbey. I did not like it. It is not my favorite Jane Austen novel. Not a lot happens, and our main protagonist, Catherine, is quite dull or gullible, but these are characteristics that for some reason are admired or encouraged, especially in women during this time period or within the novel. There's also this weird segue into like a gothic kind of suspense story in the middle of it all, and it really doesn't match the rest of the story. And the male main characters are constantly making fun of the women and teasing them for their lack of knowledge, but also praising them for being so oblivious and gullible. It's like an entire story of just men bullying women in a non-aggressive way, but annoying nonetheless. That being said, it is Jane Austen, and the writing was therefore very lovely as usual, and I still found it a comfort to read. But I don't think I recommend it unless you're trying to read all of Austen's works, which I am. I think I only have Persuasion and Mansfield Park, is that what it's called? Those are the only two that I haven't read yet. So yes, 2 stars from me, and now I better get to work. Cheers, friends! Hi friends, it is 12:30 a.m. and I have just finished up work for the day. I have literally worked since 9 this morning until now, and this is actually pretty standard for me. It's something that I would really like to change. I don't necessarily mind the work, like I really enjoy everything that I do. Freelancing wise, and then I love what I'm doing for YouTube and my Patreon, but it's a lot, like working, how many hours is that? 9 to 9 would be 12 hours, and then yeah, 15-hour days, pretty much 6 days a week. And I feel in my core that I'm right at a crossroads, and I think that I'm ready to kind of dive in fully to my creative work, like my YouTube and my Patreon and my other endeavors, and kind of hopefully be able to support myself off of those and not work 15-hour days, or at least if I have to work 15-hour days, it will be for myself, which would be a dream come true. But it's so scary, especially during the time of COVID. There's so much uncertainty, and to have stable income is such a blessing. Like, there are so many people who have lost their jobs, many in my family even, and then even myself in a way. I feel like a lot of you can relate to me right now, and I know that a lot of you are in super tough situations right now. I get a lot of comments and messages, and it's absolutely heartbreaking the things that you guys have been through. I don't know, we're all just humans being and doing the best that we can. And I think it's a lovely thing to not feel so alone. And one of the most unforeseen side effects to having this channel is the community that it's brought me, and it's taken away so much loneliness. So thank you so much for that, friends. And in return for the comments and the support, and just in the spirit of this community, I'm gonna open up to you guys about my journey with money and just what it's been like to graduate from college and move across the country and not know anyone or have any connections and try and make it as a young adult female in the real world without really having anything figured out. Ooh, it's so scary and uncomfortable, but it's okay. I'm just gonna dive into it. So growing up, money seemed to always be scarce. My parents are divorced and my dad had to work multiple jobs when I was a kid, and then my mom worked the craziest hours, picking up as much overtime as she possibly could. It seemed that money was always a struggle, always a source of pain and suffering, and just never around. So fast forward to college. My parents couldn't afford to put me through college, and so I had student loans. And going to college or university in the United States is extremely expensive. My tuition for each year of college, like each individual year, was around $20,000, and I couldn't afford it. My parents couldn't afford it, so I had lots and lots of student loans. And then I also worked 2 jobs throughout college, and I graduated early in order to save money. But upon graduation, I was stepping into the real world with already an insane amount of student loan debt. And then I did that thing where I moved all the way across the country from literally every single person that I knew, all my family, all my friends. Didn't know anyone here in Portland except Landon. Thank goodness for Landon. I've had him with me this entire time. We met in college and moved out to Portland together. But that time just after graduating was so tough. I've touched on it a little bit in one of my previous videos, but oh man, it was really scary, really tough. I did super well in school, but I did not prepare for a career. My plan was always to go to grad school following university. I wanted to be a professor, but when you can't afford college, the years and years of college it takes to get a master's and then get a PhD just doesn't make any sense. So I had prepared throughout my 4 years to go to grad school, but then decided just before graduating that didn't make any sense for me. So I hadn't prepared to have a career. I didn't get internships, and I hadn't really been applying to jobs because it was such a last-minute decision. In fact, I had gotten into Portland State University and the University of Oregon, and that was my plan, but that didn't happen, and I moved to Portland anyways with Landon, and yeah, didn't have any connections, so it was extremely difficult to find a job. And I took the first thing that I could get. I applied to a job a day, every single day, until I got one. And I got a job as a brand ambassador for a tea company, or kombucha company. Kombucha is fermented tea, if you're not familiar. And it was an extremely part-time job, but with the craziest hours. And I was repeatedly told by family members and just people with experience that I should take as many opportunities as I could with this company and then move up within the company. And I made it very clear from the start that I was dedicated to this company and would like to move up within the company, and they were really excited and said, absolutely, that's totally doable. We love to hire within the company. Like, yes, there's tons of opportunity for you here. So thus ensued a year, over a year and a half of me saying yes to literally any and every request and working way too hard and having the craziest schedule and actually becoming really unhealthy as a result and just pretty miserable. Like, the work itself was fun and my coworkers were fun, but there was no work-life balance. Working in the service industry can be really draining and kind of difficult, especially when people treat you a little bit less than human. Seriously, I have so much respect for the people who work jobs at night or over the weekend who put on events or work at restaurants and coffee shops and things of that sort. Just people that serve other people and don't have a set schedule. That is so, so difficult. And I'm actually really, really grateful for the experience. It is a luxury to have a set schedule and to be able to depend on having nights and weekends off. But that's also a luxury that not many of us have, even those of us who work 9 to 5, 5 days a week. Like, now it's rare for work to end when you leave the office, and even more so since COVID and we're all working from home. Like, you still get emails to your phone, you still have projects and deadlines that are really, really stressful. We are worked so much. Landon and I did the math. I can't remember what it was, but when you calculate if you have a 9 to 5, 5 days a week with 2 weeks of vacation in the year, which is pretty standard in the United States. So those 2 weeks of vacation plus weekends throughout the year, I think it's a third of your life. Like, I think that we get a third of our lives to ourselves, and then the other 2/3 are spent at work. 2/3 of your adult life. And that's the norm here. And, ooh, it's terrible. It's really terrible. Moving on with my own experiences though, that year and a half of working that part-time job, I got a few pay raises, but never made it to full-time employment like they had heavily led me to believe that I would. And I was at the poverty line in the United States as far as how much I was making, and it was really, really tough with my loans. I couldn't afford all of rent. I couldn't afford groceries. Every little expense, I would wake up and worry about how much money was in my bank account. It is a luxury to not think about how much money you have in your bank account. It was extremely stressful, and that time in my life demolished my self-confidence. And Landon stuck with me through it all. He is an amazing person. He never complained, and he was more than willing to pick up my slack and just was so steadfast through it all. Like, I honestly do not know what I would have done without him. And honestly, it's thanks to him, like, so much. He has such a big part in this whole channel and everything that's happened since this time in my life, because he's always been so supportive of everything I do, and he's believed in me no matter what. He's literally seen me at my absolute worst and still believed in me. Like, he hasn't ever doubted me, ever, and he believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and for that I am so immensely grateful. I love him so much. So things were really bad, like really, really bad for me. And I was trying so hard with all my might to make it happen with this company and to just get myself out of this situation. I'm not a lazy person. I was working really hard and very respectfully, but it just wasn't working because it wasn't the right path for me, and I could feel it in my gut, but I did not want to admit it because it seemed so foolproof. Like, as long as I do my job really, really well, everything will work out. But I knew that that wasn't right for me. I knew that I wasn't meant to be in that field and working with that company. And so one day I finally admitted the truth to myself, and it was that I was on the wrong path and that I was gonna have to undo everything that I had spent all my time since moving to Portland building up. And that was both terrifying and freeing. I was sitting in a coffee shop right beside Powell's books, and I had just purchased the book, The Crossroads of Should and Must by L. Luna, and I realized I was at a crossroads in my life, and it was time to determine if I was going to take should or must. And should was to continue to work with this company and kill myself trying to get a promotion, or must to throw caution to the wind and admit that I legitimately wanted to be a YouTuber. I legitimately wanted to be a videographer. And thank goodness that I chose must. I can remember telling my family, like, I remember specifically telling my stepmom that I was gonna be a YouTuber, and she was like, okay, you go do that, and just felt ridiculous because YouTube was my impossible dream. It was supposed to be impossible, you know? So I admitted it. I made the decision, and immediately doors started opening up for me. It was crazy. I got a job as a videographer for this company, and my quality of life improved instantly. It still wasn't ideal. This company actually wanted me to be contracted. They didn't want to hire me as an actual employee. They wanted me to sign a contract to work with them, which meant that from that day that I signed that contract, I had my own business. So when you are contracted with a company, it means that you've agreed to work a certain amount of hours for a certain amount of pay, or on a specific project for a certain amount of pay, and that's it. Everything else is up to you. It's up to you to remove the taxes from whatever you make, and you also don't get any benefits. And by benefits, I mean healthcare, because in the United States, our healthcare is attached to our employment, specifically full-time employment. If you don't have full-time employment, then you don't get healthcare. And when you're contracted, you don't get paid time off. So if I were to get sick and I couldn't work, I would just lose money. Like, I wouldn't be paid for that day that I missed. And I also can't take vacation, or if I do, I just won't be paid during the time that I'm on vacation. So I'll have the cost of the vacation plus all the money that I'm losing by not working. But also, being contracted gives you a lot of freedom. It enables you to create your own schedule. You are your own boss, and you can also determine your rates. So there is really lots of good to being contracted. But whether I liked it or not, I was officially my own business owner. And this company was amazing to work with, but I had fewer hours with them. So I was actually making less money than I had made with the previous company that I actually worked for. And so year 2 of living in Portland, my quality of life was better because I was following my dream and actually creating art, making videos, doing what I love to do, but I was making even less money. So finances were ever so stressful. And then I hit yet another tipping point, or crossroads. And this was actually a year ago. This was last November. My best friend from high school, Katie Oglesby, called me and invited me on a free trip to Hawaii. A free trip to Hawaii. And I knew that I couldn't afford it. I could not afford a free trip to Hawaii. And I couldn't afford it because going to Hawaii for a week meant missing a week of work, which meant literally not being able to pay my student loans, not being able to pay my bills, and then also just not being able to pay for food and whatever else I needed while in Hawaii. This was gut-wrenching. Like, I could not believe that I had gotten to a place in my life where I couldn't afford a free vacation. It was not only embarrassing, but super disappointing. I was really, really disappointed in myself. I'm just frustrated because it's not like I wasn't trying. I was doing everything I could to get myself into just a better financial situation. And so many things were against me. Not having any connections, companies preferring to have contracted workers rather than actual employees, working in an extremely competitive field, and just the fact that artists tend to be undervalued in their work. The list goes on. We all have struggles. So I can very clearly remember getting off the phone with Katie and realizing that this was a turning point in my life. Like, this was rock bottom. I had less than $1,000 to my name and was so over it. It was time to pick myself up and turn things around. I actually took a picture at that moment to remember it by, and I'll insert it here. I was crying. I was crying because I knew I was at rock bottom and there was simply nowhere to go but up. So I swallowed my pride and asked around for nannying jobs, and was actually so close to taking a job at a factory. And I sat down and talked with the company that I was contracted with and told them that I needed a raise, and they actually ended up accepting that and offered me more hours so that I didn't have to take a nannying job or work at the factory, and I could afford to go to Hawaii. I also decided that I was going to become an expert on money rather than have it be this big abstract thing that I was scared of and that was always a struggle to get. And so I started reading money-specific books like How to Think and Grow Rich or You Are a Badass at Making Money. This is when my super early morning routine really kicked in. I would wake up early just to read a chapter of those before work, and I mean really read them and really put in the work. It took me like 2 or 3 months to finish each of those books because I took very seriously every exercise they offered. I took notes. I hand wrote my answers and my introspection and my observations and my goals and my dreams. Like, I wrote it all out. I really felt it and was super serious about making positive financial change in my life. That's also when I dove into YouTube. So I held on to that and decided to just dive in and do Vlogmas. So I posted a video every other day for the whole month of December leading up to Christmas. And during that month, I got my first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And oh man, I felt like I was flying. Like, I felt so light on my feet. I was staying up way late because I was also working nearly full-time with my new hours and then editing at night. So I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, but I was so excited to wake up in the morning. Like, I did not feel tired at all because I was doing the thing that I loved. Like, things were finally looking up for me. And so I had a great December, January, February, and then March came, and so did COVID. And I think it was April actually when the company that I was working with told me that rather than 35 hours a week, I was going to have 20 hours a month, which was simply not enough to live off of. Luckily, they gave me plenty of notice. They gave me like a month and a half's worth of notice. So they encouraged me to explore other areas in my freelancing business that had been created as a result of signing to be contracted with them. So really, I hadn't grown a business. Like, my business started the day that I signed a contract with them. So I ended up diving into real estate photography, and that has been amazing. And when the time came for my hours to be dropped with this company, they were actually more secure than they thought, so they didn't actually have to drop so many of my hours. March is also when I became monetized on YouTube, which was so exciting for me. I thought that monetization on YouTube meant financial independence, and for the first time ever, I could do the thing that I loved most, and as long as I kept doing it, I would be totally fine financially. And it took me 4 months to make $100 on YouTube. So that was pretty shocking. But my channel has since grown to over 35,000 subscribers. So I have a substantial number of subscribers with a significant number of views, and now make about $1,000 a month on YouTube. 1,000 is good. It's like between 800 and 1,100. So I've made just about $1,000 on YouTube the past 3 months, which is amazing. So good. It's not enough to live off of, but it's enough to pay for my groceries and gas. And it's money that I'm making doing something that I absolutely love. And then in August, I launched my Patreon, which blew my mind, you guys. Like, I thought it would take me at least 3 years to get where I am right now on Patreon. Currently, I have about 350 patrons signed up to support me on Patreon, which comes to about $1,500 a month. So these past 2 months, I've made $2,500 doing what makes me happiest. Which is absolutely unbelievable. Seriously, thank you guys so much. Thank you for being here. And thank you for supporting me on my Patreon. So I'm at a really good spot, and I'm doing what I absolutely love. but I'm also still having to do 30 plus hours a week for freelancing business stuff, and then YouTube on top of it. So I work 7 days a week. And like I said before, I absolutely don't mind my work, but it's not sustainable to work this much. And so I'm hoping that by continuing to do what I love and just put in my whole heart into my work, specifically YouTube and my Patreon and my specimen frames and an online shop that I would eventually like to open. It is still a struggle to pay for everything. I'm still not quite able to comfortably pay everything and then have some change to spare. And I would love to be able to do that without having to work 7 days a week, multiple jobs. But I am so immensely grateful for the work and the pay. And I know that I'm in a really, really good place. And everything is going to be okay. And now I'm speaking to you when I say that. No matter where you are in your life right now, whatever your circumstances are, know that everything is going to work out. I know that some people have it significantly harder than others, especially Black people and people in third world countries and a lot of women and people with disabilities. It is my hope that you are able to find your one thing that gives you light and your one thing that you can follow. And if you do that one thing, everything else will seem to fall into place. That is my hope for you, friends. Thank you for being a part of my one thing. And thank you for helping me to see the magic in my life. Good night, friends.